With our audience growing and our book baby out in the world, we need to ring a bell from the rooftops and tell everyone to come look at what we made and hope they'll hang it on the refrigerator like Mom did. Except with money. You get the analogy. The point is, we need to advertise. Once again, let's see what works, what doesn't, and save a few $100s on seminars. I'm author DC Ferguson, and this is the Writing Dojo. Before we get started, would you like to work with me? I've created DC Ferguson's reading group. You'll get free reviewer copies of my books, and all you have to do is leave an honest review on Amazon. Sounds like a sweet deal, right? Well, come build a blanket fort with me, and let's be best friends. The link is in the description down below. As if my first intro wasn't enough, now we have another preface before I talk about these platforms. Well, you might be saying to yourself, hey self, we have a few bucks, let's give this part a try. It's not that expensive, and what's the worst that could happen? Well, I'd laud your desire to put your money where your mouth is. But again, I've been there and I've done that. It's like a magic trick, where all you do is make your money disappear. But DC, this one is different. No, guy who talks to your monitor, it isn't. Let me briefly make sure that I run the gamut of anything you might consider putting your money at, and tell you that these will not work. Blog tours, author promotion websites, radio, TV, and local physical advertising such as billboards. I'm not saying these won't work well. I'm saying they won't return on your investment at all. Period. Now, why is that? Well, part of it is the cost. If you go with the cheap ones, they barely make a ripple in the water. And when you go expensive, just to break even, you have to sell a metric ton of books. There's only one type of advertising that does these huge explosive gains, and we'll talk about that one later. But for these other ones, it throws too wide a net at too many people that maybe just plain don't read or aren't interested. So today I'm going to teach you every term that you need to know to understand the business side of self-publishing, how to properly track it, and how to know if it's working. Ah, crap, that's right. I was going to say let's move on to chapter 2, but I forgot. I blew a ton of money on those seminars that teach you this stuff over hours upon hours of plotting common sense stuff and filler while you look for nuggets of wisdom like you're panning for gold. So, maybe you were hoping I could replicate that experience for you and save you the money? Okay, sure. We'll start off by talking about what does success mean, and then I'll tell you about what an incredible author I am and how I became so great, so you should be paying me for telling you this stuff. Then we'll talk about what Amazon is and how it works, because you've never heard of it. And then we'll gloss over the important questions that you do have in a fast-paced 20-minute section that is the real info you signed up for. And then I'll try to sell you something else at the end. Does that sound good? Wait, where are you going? Alright, fine. We'll skip all that nonsense and we'll get to the meat of advertising and skip the filler. Deal? Deal. Alright. So there are 3 major advertising companies that you want to work with as an author in 2020. I'm going to show you how to work with all of them. So, let's start with our mighty overlords. This one might seem like a no-brainer, advertising with a company that's selling your book by reaching their shoppers and readers that are already coming. Well, sign me up. No, really. Sign up for Amazon's AMS platform. You should do this because you may have more success than I and many other authors have. For whatever reason, Amazon's AMS system has never really been that great for me or other authors. Some of the reasons have to do with the way that Amazon carries out their advertising. Other reasons have to do with the data they provide you. At the end of the day, you can take a stab at it and see if you get lucky, because there is literally minimal risk involved. Minimal risk? What the heck does that mean? Well, we're jumping ahead, but Amazon's AMS system only advertises what it believes has proven itself, so if your ad doesn't get traction, it falls out of favor pretty quickly, and you won't really get charged much. Here is an ad I posted with a daily limit of $100. Amazon didn't even feel inclined to take my money over the course of 2 weeks. By that same token, however, if you're absolutely killing it with your AMS ad, then Amazon will keep pumping that ad, and even notifying you when it thinks you should increase your daily budget. So, I said that's jumping ahead. But I'm sure that last bit is at the front of everyone's mind. What am I looking at cost-wise? Well, here's what you need to prepare for before you get into advertising. The first thing is you aren't paid for sales by Amazon the month you make those sales. You're paid 90 days later. So my check in November is for the sales I had during the month of July. that means you're going to need 3 months worth of advertising budget saved up before you'll begin to see your returns. If you can swallow that pill, it does get easier to continue forward. Assuming the previous info is understood, we're going to work with a low figure, the lowest figure as a matter of fact, $5 per day. If you're looking at our current financial crisis and need to budget, then you can assume $450 of debt will be incurred before your first royalty check hits. If cost is no object to you, then obviously this doesn't apply, and you'll be able to kick open a lot more doors than are initially open for you. So, with this information in hand, we're going to create our first ad. There are only 2 ads in Amazon to concern yourself with. That's product targeting ads and keyword ads. Product targeting is a lot what it sounds like. You list a series of products, or in this case, brands or books that are like yours, and you let the Amazon algorithm find your audience based on that information alone. Does it work? Meh. Again, I've never had much success with AMS, but this is the one I've had the least success with. Now, keyword ads, those are the big beasts with AMS. These are the ones you'll see the most. They're called sponsored product ads, and they can give you the most significant returns and the most sales. Basically, Amazon keyword lists can be up to 1,000 keywords. You feed those keywords into Amazon, tell them what you're willing to pay for each keyword, and then it's run like an auction. The highest bids on certain keywords will fill it up, and subsequent lower bids get secondary slots until all the slots are filled up. If you're not offering a high enough bid on those keywords, you don't get placed for the keyword. So what's a good starting bid? Well, most people, seminars, etc., they'll tell you between 15 and 25 cents, but I have to be honest with you. AMS in the past year has skyrocketed in their costs per bid, and that advice might not work anymore, especially if your keyword or genre is particularly competitive. Amazon offers 2 solutions to that problem, and they're both bad. The first is dynamic bidding, which if you turn this feature on, AMS will automatically bid upwards to make you more competitive. On paper, that sounds great, but it really just means your bids can go up and you spend more money to get a single set of eyes on your book. The other method is in the ad creation process, where AMS shows you the suggested bid for keywords on your list. The range of pricing they show is positively ridiculous. You can get clicks for those keywords at less than the suggested bid, and some of these suggestions are so high that it is impossible to make money advertising using them. So, not only is it not working as intended, but AMS has also created a system that is in no way profitable for standalone books. So, let's say none of these problems will affect you, and we're going to go for it. Let's talk about the keyword list. Where do you get one? Well, there are a few different ways. If you had a nice launch of your book and a decent number of sales, the first place to look is your also boughts. This section of your book page on Amazon will eventually fill with your own books, but at a glance, this section also gives you valuable data. These people that bought your book, they bought these books too. Now, my series we're looking at here is urban fantasy, and not surprisingly, my also boughts feature a large number of similar or adjacent genres, such as paranormal fantasy or paranormal romance. Though I'm not a romance writer, this is a valuable insight, because readers, particularly women, enjoying paranormal romance like Hungry Wolf, are possibly good candidates to advertise to. Now, I'm going to take a book title and the author for every single one of my also boughts. So for every book, you're getting 2 keywords. You can also go one layer deeper. Take the top 10 of your also boughts and grab their also boughts. This is what you call a lookalike audience, and it'll be important later when we get to Facebook advertising. Now, there's 2 ways that we can do this. We can take 300 keywords and put them into AMS with the options of phrase, exact, and broad. These search terms are each handled separately, and basically it turns 300 keywords into 900. The other way we go is to fill up a full 1,000 keyword list and use exact only. Regardless which way you choose to go, you feed in your keywords, you make your bid on them, and then Amazon will reject any of your keywords it didn't like and show you the suggested bids for all of them. Assume that for a $2.99 book, anything 35 cents and above is probably not cost effective, but I'm going to tell you how to figure that out. What we're trying to avoid here is wasting money. So let's cover some terms that you need to know real quick. The first is impressions. Impressions means how many people your ad was exposed to. The next one is clicks, which is what it sounds like, how many people clicked on your ad. Now, if you divide the clicks by the number of impressions, you get your click-through rate, or CTR. It's a percentage. This is a percentage of how many people click out of how many people it was exposed to. What's a good click rate? The answer is about 10%, and that's true of both Amazon and Facebook. Below that, we worry about the ad's effectiveness, and above that, we covet it and cradle it close like it's the baby Yoda, because we want to duplicate the success of that ad over and over forever. Daily budget is another thing we're going to touch on real quick. In the beginning, if you're shy, set it to $5 a day. Trust me, unless you have a killer ad, Amazon isn't even going to come close to spending your entire budget. After that, once you realize there's not really much to fear, some people advise you take the budget up to $100, basically playing the role of a big wallet advertiser so the algorithm notices you more. Again, it won't, but you can try that too. The biggest issue I've had with Amazon is that they don't seem very interested in taking our money. I know, it's weird. So, now your ad is running. Time to start checking it every 2 hours and wait for that sweet, sweet data to come rolling in, right? Wrong. 3 days. Don't touch it, don't fiddle with it, don't even look at it. And there are 2 reasons why. Amazon and Facebook both use algorithms to determine the placement of your ad. When it starts working, these little algorithms get all worked up and start pushing you hardest where you're succeeding. Basically, they're trying to maximize your sales for you because it means more money for them and better accuracy for their customers' search and buying habits. In the heat of that introductory 3 days, the algorithm is trying to sort you out. Additionally, Amazon has a delay in reporting your sales numbers on your KDP. You may not see people that the ad worked for on day 1. You may have to wait until day 3 to see the sales that you had from that first day of advertising. Even then, you're still not getting an accurate picture of performance yet. So now we're back to learning some terms. When we're analyzing data, it is super important to understand what a good ad looks like, whether your money invested is working for you, and how your book is being received. The first term we need to know is CPC, or cost per click. Since this is where AMS can really gouge you, understand that you ultimately control the cost per click on Amazon. But how well you perform is based on what you're willing to spend on this, not your daily budget. This is another reason why I'm not a huge fan of AMS. But let's look at our data and see what we learn. Your best preliminary information comes within a few days, but obviously the longer it goes, the more we learn. Now, what happens if we don't have much data after a week because the ad is performing poorly? Well, we can learn from that too. Basically, if you have an ad with low impressions and low clicks, your ad is probably bad. Either you've targeted the wrong audience, you're using keywords no one is searching for, or you're not bidding enough on the keywords to get seen. Now, how about high impressions and no clicks? Well, that means that there's a problem there with either your ad copy, which is the pretty words you use to describe your book, or the problem lies with your cover. An unattractive cover, or one that does not fit with the genre you're writing in, can turn off a potential reader. While we say you can't judge a book by its cover, most people still do. And I can't understate enough the need for a good cover, as we discussed in part 1 of this series, and it's for this very reason. Last, high impressions and high clicks, but low sales. Well, unfortunately, that one is strictly going to be on your Amazon page for the book itself. Either your book description or the short preview is turning off your potential customer. Now, if you targeted the right audience, the cover brought them this far to see your book page, then you actually do have to worry if either your blurb or your preview is turning them off. All I can say is that it is something you're probably going to want to run by friends or Facebook author groups and see what they say. Now that we know how to gauge why an ad isn't working, let's look at one that's doing a pretty swell job. There is an ad right here with a low CPC, high impressions, high clicks. You baby an ad like this. You scour every bit of data from the best keywords and highest engagement and hope you can make lightning strike twice again in future ads. But There's a detail here that's going to make us a little sad. And that detail is our royalty. See, we have 10,000 impressions. We also have a 10% click-through rate, giving us 1,000 clicks at a low price of 35 cents a piece. Of these 1,000 clicks, 10% of those chose to buy. Our royalty on a book priced at $4.99 is about $2.35, meaning that we spent $350 on ads but only made $235. We're underwater. This is where you need to understand another term, ROI, or return on investment. At the very least, you need to break even just to get your name out there. Otherwise, you're paying people to read your book effectively. In a dream world, we're selling 50% of the clicks, and this isn't an issue. But I want you to understand the numbers that you can expect so that you know how to gauge success. So there's one final term, one final caveat that makes this number more bearable. That last bit of info is what's called your read-through rate. This is the percentage of people that pick up your first book in a series and go on to read the next one. This percentage is pretty darn good at 50%, but you want to shoot higher. If you've crafted a spectacular book 1, book 2 should quite comfortably sit at 50% or above with no difficulty. Remember, no cliffhangers. But there is this beautiful thing about a series. You aren't paying for advertising on those books, period, ever. Seriously, don't do it. Sell your book 1 and let the read-through rate work for you. Provided that you don't get any data that makes you worry, like a 20% read-through rate, then you can confidently expect how much a single click on an ad makes you. So now look at what that does to our numbers. Assuming a 10% click-to-buy ratio and a 50% read-through rate, this is what you're making per sale on average. This is why I say so often, and I'm going to repeat it again, head down, get back in the lab and write. That's the job you wanted, so do it. Unless you're really into playing with numbers and driving yourself insane, min-maxing every aspect of your ad campaign, just understand that good writing and mediocre ad campaigns will still beat great ad campaigns and mediocre writing over the long term, period. Write the stories you wish you could read. Make sure the advertising lets people know you exist, and keep pumping out the titles. Long term, you will win the marathon as word of mouth and subsequent titles come out. Now, this was an incredibly long section, but mostly because we had to learn so many terms. Now that we know them, let's go over to the much easier, more responsive, and slightly more mysterious Facebook advertising platform. Like I said previously, I want to give you every nugget of wisdom I possibly can to at least arm you to do battle without all the struggles I had starting out. As such, I'm not borrowing this behind a $500 class, and I'm not wasting your time telling you about me and my 5 cats. So, we're going to get right into this. Feel free to watch this over and over because I'm going to cover a lot of details in here in rapid succession, and it's a lot to absorb. First, let's start with books. Yes, there is a book you can read to do better at this, which is Help, My Facebook Ads Suck by Mal and Michael Cooper. While some of the information is dated, a lot of the advice as to how to approach your ads and watch your ads and knowing when to pull them is all good, valuable information, and it is worth a read. The second edition, I believe, is the current one, but again, some of the info may be a little dated with this newfangled nightmare they call the new Facebook. So, let's jump right in. First, you need to have an author profile or a separate Facebook page altogether for you as an author. This is who's going to be posting the ads, so this should be a no-brainer. You don't want to do this through your personal feed, it muddies the waters too much. Now, you have a separate profile to post ads from, let's go into the ad creation process. First, we want to always create a traffic ad. Give it a recognizable name, and go to the next screen where stuff gets complicated. The audience creation screen is where we decide who Facebook shows this ad to. If you don't know a lot about your demographics for your genre, your data is going to make you learn pretty quick, but you're going to spend some money to do so. Unlike our previous experience with Amazon's AMS, Facebook will gladly take your money. As a matter of fact, it will find a way to drain out every last drop of your daily budget. This is expensive if you're targeting for your audience is way off, but the trade-off is that you will see sales start moving almost right away if you did this right. So, how do we choose an audience? Well, this varies a lot, and it's the secret sauce that no one is going to tell you, and here's why. If you're right on genre, written to market, and you fit right in alongside every giant in your category with both the story and the cover, this is going to be a slam dunk. You already know who you're looking for. However, if you're some hybrid sci-fi comedy series written by a British dude named Douglas Adams, let's just say it's a good thing he's now in the classics section. Today, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy would be incredibly hard to market. Market it too close to sci-fi fans, and you might only catch the ones that are looking for hard sci-fi or epic space operas. Lean into humor too much, and you bump into a lot of non-fiction political satire. Trying to zero in on that particular audience that would love the dry British wit and the silly characters while telling a truly great narrative could be a massive undertaking that would be very, very difficult. Trust me, I know. Douglas Adams was my number one inspiration for writing The Singer and the Charlatan, and I literally spent years trying to find my audience in fantasy humor. So, again, we want to look at our also boughts. Look for the titans in your genre, because Amazon-only authors, even those with bestseller credentials tagged all over their books, are not necessarily going to be on offer in Facebook's audience tool. Obviously, pick the authors whose books and fans you're most alike to. If you're writing Victorian horror, you don't want to use Stephen King just because he's a horror writer. You want Mary Shelley or H.G. Wells or even H.P. Lovecraft before you want Stephen King. This is true of all genres. You don't want to target your werewolf shifter romance towards women that prefer classic period pieces with settings like Caribbean pirates or colonial America. You will get some overlap for sure, but you might find your audience lacking. Now, once I've chosen my audience, which I'm aiming to hit about 1 million people minimum, you can start smaller if you'd like, but once we've done that, we're going to narrow the audience. We can target the US only, which I do recommend starting out, but you can branch out to other countries. We can target age range and gender, useful if you already know this stuff. Then we click the narrow audience button and include these 4 things. Amazon Kindle, owns Kindle Fire, ebooks, and e-readers. This makes it so that we know anyone clicking already has a vested interest in ebooks, so we're not trying to sell ourselves to people who aren't even book readers. Now, if you haven't done so already, this is the time to set a budget. Facebook's default is $20 per day. I usually go for $5 to start out and then see what the reception looks like. Again, if you're Mr. or Miss Moneybags, you can set this to $20 and get your data faster, but beware. I wasn't kidding when I said Facebook will eat every penny every day without fail. Put up a losing ad and you will drain your bank account faster than you can say Facebook stole my lunch money. The final step in ad creation is, well, the ad itself. The jury is still out on using your book cover art in the ad. Some say don't, while others say do. My artist gave me a killer set of covers, and since it'd probably be pretty difficult for me to find stock photos of a Native American sorceress in a neon cyberpunk cityscape, I opted to use my cover art. You can also use stock photos, but choose wisely. You want something attractive and eye-catching, but you want it on genre so fans of the genre are engaged by the ad. Using stock photos is also dangerous because you could end up using ones that other people with the same idea are using, creating an overlap. Now, alternatively, if you're an overachiever, you can also use a video or image carousel here too. Either way. Next up is the creative. Much like your blurb, you want a hook to start it off and get people reading the ad. I know this might sound weird, but also make sure in the ad that you're very clear it's a book too, because we don't want to pay for clicks from someone thinking that this is a trailer for a movie or something. Again, no summaries. Short, sweet, and to the point. We're selling this book, so sell me on it. Tell me why I need it, not everything that happens. Then, link it up. You want to make sure that you're going directly to the sales page. People do not like jumping through hoops to get what they want. One click to a sales page, that's it. The description box below here gives you a chance to paste in a quote from a review or one more call to action. But for anyone that needs to see that description box, the Learn More button actually has to be removed, which Facebook only lets you do on some ads. Anyway, after all that fun stuff, we hit publish. Our ad goes live within about an hour, and typically you'll have some very preliminary data to act on later that day. Now that data is going to be messed up. it'll start around 30 to 60 cents a click while Facebook starts figuring out what works and targets your audience. By the next day, you'll see your cost per click drop significantly as the levels even out. This is where we start getting that sweet, sweet data. Again, we're looking for a ratio of about 8 to 10% clicks, the higher the better. It's just simple math to divide your impressions by 10 to see how many clicks you should have and compare it against what you actually have. If you're over, you got a killer ad. If you're under, fear not. Facebook takes time, usually upwards of 5,000 impressions before it figures out how to place you best. That said, if after 3 days you haven't hit 5,000 impressions and your click rate is 5% or below, you've probably either got a bad ad or a bad audience. Now, once we do hit that 5,000 impression milestone, though, we get incredibly powerful data like this. This is your demographics breakdown. What I typically say is that these dovetails here, where your demo is less than 10% of the audience, can just be shaved from future ads in favor of being more precise. For me, I know that 45 and older for the Dragonstream Saga is a waste, and despite my best efforts, targeting my series to men hasn't nearly gotten the same level of engagement. So, now I'm not wasting money advertising to demographics that don't engage with me, and this part is a big deal, might cost more per click individually than I should have to pay. Now, this won't happen until the death of your ad, but we're going to talk about frequency. Frequency is one tiny metric buried in your Facebook Ad Manager that doesn't stand out or explain how important it is. Frequency is the amount of your intended audience that's been exposed to the ad. It starts at 1.0 and gradually increases towards 2.0. The short version is at about 1.5, your ad starts to tank. Because basically half the people that are seeing your ad are seeing it a second time. You'll see your cost per click begin to rise as the ad dies out. Now, you can reactivate this ad by duplicating it at a later time, but each time it'll hit frequency faster and it'll die faster. That means you're constantly chasing and creating ads with new audiences in mind. How quickly that happens is very dependent on your daily budget. Now, so far, this has all been upside with Facebook, so what's the downside? Well, we can't see engagement by audience, meaning if I put in 6 different authors to build my audience, I can't tell if I'm getting the most clicks for fans of Jim Butcher or Alona Andrews. This is a key piece of information that for whatever reason Facebook doesn't include in its metrics. However, let's talk about 2 tools that you really have to dig for to even know they existed. What? More secrets? DCU Slide W, I would gladly pay you $29.95 for this information and your free gift. But wait, folks, there's more. Facebook Insights is a tool that Facebook offers that allows you to search their demographics database and see a lot of information about those users you're advertising to. Search up interests like urban fantasy, and boom, you're not only looking at a group that skews heavily female, but you also get to see their relationship status, the primary industry they work in, what pages they like and favorite the most, and so on. This is a valuable tool for creating audiences or narrowing them. Another tool you can try is to check out your fellow authors. A quick look at any author page shows you this secret little button right here you might not have noticed. With one click, you can now see every ad this author has ever run and arranged by most popular. You want to learn why their ads are killing it and yours suck? Well, learn from the successful. One caveat with this, obviously. Do not, and I mean never ever, steal, copy, plagiarize, or otherwise use another author's ad for yourself. Learn from them. See what's working for them. Get ideas for both effective copy and good images, but never ever copy and paste their ad as your own. Not only is it bad form and plagiarism, but there's also a strong possibility it doesn't work for you at all. What works for them doesn't necessarily apply to you. PSA over. Even if that one was common sense, I feel better having said it. Now we're almost at the finish line. There's one last advertiser you need to know about, so cross your fingers and hope you get chosen. This last one is short, but sweet, because you can't just advertise with them any old time you feel like. You can apply, hope, get rejected, and try again until you get what's called a Bookbug feature deal. Basically, you discount your book for the promotional period down to 99 cents, which is easy to do if you're enrolled in Kindle Unlimited and you're using it during your Kindle promotion period. Then, the day your Bookbug promotion starts, they blast their massive engaged newsletter list with your book as a featured title. The cost for this varies by genre, but for hot categories like fantasy and sci-fi, expect your price in the $700 to $900 range. But DC, that's crazy expensive. Well, guy who talks to your monitor, it sounds expensive. But the bottom line is that not only will you make all of that up on day one, but the ripple effect will be felt for weeks. Yes, you will make it all up on day one. If you're doing the math in your head on that, I'm sure you realize this means you're very, very likely to hit number one on at least one of your genre categories on Amazon, officially making you a bestseller. Now you can see why everyone wants one of these. Applying is easy, it takes a few minutes. They'll look at your ad, they'll look at your book, they'll judge it by its cover, blurb, the number of reviews, and other factors. A high number of reviews is recommended before you even try to apply, like upwards of 50 or more. But, like I said, you get one of these and life is pretty sweet for you. So, this is another avenue to consider, basically from the moment that you can afford it and you feel you meet the criteria. Now, I have literally taught you everything I know about advertising on these platforms. To say it's going to take trial and error is the understatement of the century if you're doing all this yourself. And I truly hope that by learning from every mistake I've ever made, you won't waste your time or efforts where they won't work. Giving you that leg up that I didn't have will also let you get in there and learn the important stuff much faster, perfecting your advertising and prep skills so that every launch is a big launch. I wish you the best of luck in that endeavor, and I advise you to keep checking out the World Building Dojo with me, DC Ferguson, as we talk about what makes great stories. Wow, this took so much longer to put out than I expected, but it's also my longest video to date. Don't feel bad if you're feeling a little overwhelmed after all this. Like last week, the information I've given you here will take months to perfect and to learn and get better. Feel free to come back and watch this video over and over as I packed it with as much information as I possibly could, which is usually stretched out across entire webinars. Thanks so much also for the donations to you from you guys as well. This beautiful lady is Liana. She's 12 and on the spectrum. We're working with the Boston-based Needs organization to get this little lady a service dog. If you'd like to help, check out the description in the box down below. Also, while you're down there, don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. The link is also there, and you're going to get Cora Blake, Arcane Agent, totally free. You'll get cool news about what I'm working on in books and here on the channel, and it comes loaded with cool authors and promotions for fantasy and sci-fi. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear about new videos, and as always, I'm DC Ferguson. Now have fun and get crafting.